everybody, and welcome to the Morning Roast. And I am, of course, Sugar Chris. And I have a new guest today, Mr. R.L. Black of Vantage Comics. And I don't know where Sim is, where he's lurking about. He's probably still going for his Tim Hortons and getting out of bed. Let's see. We got Pale Rider popping in. He says, "Sorry, everyone. Chris will be late. He had a bad." Gosh damn! No, I didn't, Pale Rider. I am. Ooh, I was like 30 seconds early. I'll have you know. Uh, like right off the bat, before I can even get this thing rolling, they're already with the in jokes and picking at me.
There you go.
Oh gosh, how's it over there weather-wise for you, sir?
Um, it's not bad. This is going to be the nicest. I'm in Pennsylvania in the northwest corner, so weather's always sketchy anyway. But no, it's nice. It's been a nice week. I actually got to mow my yard, so things are going well.
Yeah, it's been raining a lot here, and it's a little drizzling now, but it's been raining a lot here, and I couldn't get to my mowing and
Yeah,
stuff, so it was growing up really bad. I
yeah,
finally got to do it the past few days.
yeah. Yeah, it's not that bad for me. If I don't get to it though, then my wife starts to complain, and then things go downhill from there. So
Mm.
I'm always monitoring that.
Yeah, if I don't get to mine, the city gets after me.
Oh, that can happen too. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Let's see. Oh, Bestoya Dave. He says, "All right, me babbers." Hey, Dave. He says, "Sim's asleep again." Of course he is. He says, "RL Black is looking blue."
Yeah. I need like black. Well, you don't really have, black lights aren't really black though. I don't know. Yeah, no. I got these blue lights I installed in here. I
I
like things
mean,
moody.
you got a nice setup there. You know, you got your nice pictures on the wall there and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I put some artwork of mine, some other people's artwork, and yeah, I built a studio. I finished it actually last summer. Took me like 6 months. I refinished my attic, and because I was like, I need a studio, and like this is my cave, and I just kind of said this is where I do everything. So, like right now, I've got a table set up with all of my stuff for my last Kickstarter, and I'm putting all the packages together and shipping them out, and yeah, it's just been. I wasn't sure how it would turn out because this attic was like a complete mess. It was totally unfinished. We didn't even come up here. It was nasty. And when I wanted to put a studio together, I was like, I came up here and I looked around and I said, I can kind of picture it if it was done working and looking good and stuff. And so God, it took me 6 months. I built it myself. And since then, it's just been great. Like I love it. And so that's part of the reason that I've kind of taken this turn to just focus entirely on art and just try to pump these books out and stuff.
Yeah,
So yeah.
I mean, every artist needs to have a nice place they can go to get away and focus on their work.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the only problem with it though is like you can become like a shut in where you don't want to ever leave. Like you just want to sit there, just be like, working the levers of the great and powerful Oz and just not ever leave the the inner sanctum, if you will.
Yeah,
So
I think Sim has that problem sometimes.
yeah.
He gets all locked away in his little room there and gets working, and he gets. I
Yeah.
said, Sim, remember, sometimes it's good to go outside.
Yeah, it gets too cushy, and then you're like, what was it? There's that one episode of Spider-Man where he get like the megalomania issue where they have him like just like sitting at a desk trying to figure everything out, and if everybody just leave him alone. Like I think it gets like that. So I've done pretty good. Fortunately, like I have a family, and my kids dragged me out of here. Like even when we were starting the podcast, they're beating on the door, like, "What are you doing in there?" I'm like, "I'm on a call. Leave me alone." So.
Yeah, yeah, the kids keep you busy.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
But you gotta love them. Let's see. Uh, I still ain't heard from Sim. Huh. He must really be snoozing. He must be snoozing good. I figure Dave or one of them will wake him up. Come on, you got a stream to do. I ain't seen Soul either. He probably didn't realize we had a stream. But then again, he might have also heard that it was a comic book about wrestling, and he just didn't decide to come in.
There you go.
He doesn't like wrestling. Old Soul.
Oh, that's okay. I mean, I got other books. Like I don't just do wrestling books. This is kind of a one-off um, situation. But
Well, how long have you been doing this? The comic scene.
w- well, it's funny because for me, because I went to college for graphic design, and while I was there, I had artwork that I took to, like I sent to Marvel. Went to, at the time, Acclaim was still around doing like Exo Manowar and stuff like that, and I was kind of fishing for a job in comics, and then at the time, like, my head wasn't in the right place, and so I just kind of like shit canned the whole thing. Like, I just thought, yeah, there's no way. Like, like, all these people are too good. I'm not good enough. Blah 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 blah. And so I kind of gave up on it forever. And I'm one of those people that, like, okay, so the pandemic hits and I'm locked in my house and I'm like, what the hell am I going to do? And I had this drawing tablet that I'd gotten and kind of fiddled with, and then through that I was like, I just sat down and just started working on it. I don't know why. I think I just was like compelled to do it because I didn't have anything else to do, and I just loved it. I just immediately got into it and started posting stuff, and then I did the sequential artist workshop um, out of Gainesville. It was like a virtual thing, and did their
Hmm.
graphic novel intensive course. And between all of those kinds of things, I really got back into it heavy. And then I had these books sitting around that I had put together, and I'm like, what the hell am I going to do with them? And at the time, I thought, the first one, which is Ethos, was this book that's like about monsters in World War II and all this kind of stuff. And I thought about pitching that to publishers, but then in my mind, for whatever reason, I'm like, that's going to take forever. I don't want to wait. I want to get this stuff out. I want to start publishing. So I did a Kickstarter for that, and I had, I had an audience sort of built up through Instagram and a few other things. So when I launched that Kickstarter, I felt pretty confident about it, but I threw everything in the kitchen sink at it, like, doing ads and different stuff. And it ended up being a successful Kickstarter. We got it done. We went past our goal, like, um, it was an okay project. And then we just literally got it printed. I just got the books like a week ago. We're shipping them all out this week. And that's been a really great experience. So, but I had like an audience built up for that. And so I got done with that, and I had the schedule that I had set up for the year where I was going to put out um, 5 books. And I think it was 5 in that. And so when I transitioned from Ethos, I was like, what's the next book going to be? Now, on my schedule, it was this book, the IWF Kickstarter. Part of the reason that I had this set up is I kind of created this at the same time that I started doing the Ethos book, like drawing it. And I can't say for certain why I had to do this. I knew I had to do it. Like, I just, like, I sat and I thought, like, most of the stuff I post on Instagram is like monsters and stuff, like
Hmm.
vampires, werewolves, all that kind of stuff. And but for whatever reason, like, I did this book, I did the concept for this book, and I just loved it so much. I'm like, I've got to put it out. Like, I really wanted to, even though I know it would be kind of a curveball for some of the people that follow me on a regular basis, and so I put it out. I put everything together for the Kickstarter, and um, it's kind of funny because it's pulled a whole nother group of people into my art universe. Because
Yeah.
like, this week I've done like, I did like a wrestling focused wrestling focused podcast and stuff like that. And there were people that came on just because they saw the, like, graphics and the which was a completely different flavor. Like it's very in your face, like very bold, very like 80s, like over the top kind of
Hmm.
stuff. And it's kind of expanded the group of people that I interact with on social media and stuff like that. And it's actually not really, I mean, it's a wrestling, like there's wrestling, obviously it's like a wrestling focus because the wrestler's the main character, but really it's a science fiction story. It's more about the future and this like kind of um, corporate led, like intergalactic, um, governing body that like oppresses people, and everybody's like a user, and they're all kind of passed around by this large organization, and this guy gets caught up in it and then ends up in the IWF, which is basically this like entertainment property that basically involves people like going into a ring and then in a gladiatorial style like killing each other. It's very inspired by the Running Man movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger in the
Hmm.
80s. So there's kind of chunks associated with that, or I would say that are inspired by that. So really, like the wrestling elements of it aren't that important. It's more the kind of this larger story of like one guy fighting against this larger um, universe of bad people that are trying to uh, run everything.
Oh, Mr. Brink's here. Genuine Comics says hello, everyone. Hello, hello. He says Chris
Hello.
looks tired. Yeah, yeah, kinda. I've been tired for days now. But let me see. So you did. This is your second then Kickstarter campaign.
Yep. Yeah. Do you want me to run through the images that I brought? Like
Oh,
just the
sure. Yeah, that's fine.
yeah. Let's do that. Okay. Da, da, da,
Do you watch a lot of wrestling?
Um, I used to. Let's see. Just a second. I gotta get this up and
Okay, there we go.
running. All right. All right. Um, yeah. So I used to years ago. Um, like in the 80s, I was a kid that was like into this stuff. And I mean, that's part of it too, is like, it was kind of interesting because I went on the wrestling podcast and and I've known people that are like hardcore wrestling fans. So I don't even try
Hmm.
to dabble in that because I just tell them straight up, like, listen, I've watched wrestling. I love wrestling. Like, as a kid and even into the early 2000s, we would do, when I was in my 20s, we'd do the like, um, Monday Night Raw thing where everybody come over and we'd have,
Yeah.
everybody get drunk and then we'd watch wrestling, get really rowdy and stuff.
Hmm.
So that's kind of the scope that I'm focused on, where, this is like an homage to like, the people that, like Ric Flair and, Macho Man Savage and like all these people that are like these big over the top personalities. So there's definitely an element of that in the story. Um, but I wouldn't say that I'm like a huge, because I know people that are huge wrestling fans and they would be so offended that I would even allude to the idea that I'm a huge wrestling fan. Like they just be like, they're like, you're not a wrestling fan. You don't know anything. You're stupid. Um,
What a
and
casual.
yeah, I mean, I understand that because there's stuff like that I'm into, where you're just like so deep into it that like no one else is like cool enough to understand the situation. Like, so I totally get it. Um, so like I said, like this is more for me about the artwork and the story and this kind of like larger picture. Um, this is the latest draft of the cover that I did, which again, like with this logo, the whole idea was to like emulate the WWF logo from the 1980s, which was like this chrome looking, like glowing thing. And
Hmm.
really, again, like the whole book is distressed, it's beat up, it's supposed to look like a comic book that you would pull out of, your uncle's garage attic, like that's in a desk somewhere and it's just been sitting there for 20 years. um, and it really again is supposed to emulate that 80s comic book feel, like where it's like an old Marvel book.
Yeah.
And and again, same with the artwork. Like I did this drawing, and I'll kind of show here. This drawing was done. I did a drawing originally that kind of inspired this whole concept, and I'll kind of go over that really quick. So this was a drawing I did, like, again, back in whatever would have been 2020, and I think it was a pencil sketch, and then I drew it in Procreate, and then I just liked it. And at the time, I was just drawing like a lucha libre, like I go through reference photos and just try to find cool photos to just do drawings of, because I was trying to like test anatomy and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so I pulled this picture up, and I'm like, oh, I like that. So I drew it. And at the time I had half of the guy's body. And I was like, I don't want to just draw like just the lucha libre guy. Like I wanted to be different. And somehow it turned into this robot arm, like coming out of it with like a claw and all this other stuff. And I really liked it so much. I just, and this happens a lot with the stuff that I do, where like I'll do sketches. I'll just sit and do sketches, and then while I'm sketching, I'm kind of visualizing like who is this person, like what's their backstory, what are they doing, why are they the way they are, and that's how I get the ideas for a lot of my stories that I do with Vantage. So with this, I immediately had this whole visualization of this character where it's way in the future. There's no government. Everything's run by corporations, and they've created this entertainment property where these people have to wrestle, and they're all augmented. They've got like cybernetic implants. They've got human. They're genetically engineered. There's robots in it. There's aliens in it, and they're kind of fighting each other. And and so and I think too, it's like I was a huge fan of. I don't know if you remember Muscle Men, like, or if you're familiar with them. Like, so back in the '80s, early '90s, I think it was like late '80s, and I believe it was based on either a manga or an anime, and I can't remember the name of it. Somebody told it to me, and I wrote it down somewhere, but I don't have it. But anyway, in the United States, they marketed these plastic figurines that were called Muscle. It was like MUSCLE, and it was an acronym. I don't even know what the acronym's for, but there was like there's a finite number of them. There's like it was like 150 or 200. I can't remember how many, but you would
Oh,
collect them.
yeah, I just looked it up. Yeah, I know these.
Yeah, you'd collect them or whatever, and there was like a whole crew of me and my friends that were into them, and they were really fun. I mean, they couldn't move. They were like a fixed position, and then all the characters would have like different variations of them. Some of them would have shields, some of them would have claws. Like, I mean, it was just, and so part of me, like, somebody brought it up once I started showing this to people. Like, they were like, "Oh, this is like the Muscle guys," and I was like, "Holy shit, you're right." Like, I didn't even think about it, but I kind of, again, went back to that and was like hyper interested in that. So this is partially associated with that. So I went from that to drawing this cover, which is obviously like the precursor to the final cover that I did. Um, and it's just the same thing, but I ended up drafting this, and then I had this in like 2020, and I thought, okay, I like this so much, I got to do this book. And so I started doing pages for it. Then these aren't the pages that are going to end up in the final Kickstarter, but they're draft pages that I did just to like try stuff out. And again, I'm using this like retro style coloring, where you
Hmm.
have the like Bende dot, or the kind of dot patterns that would mix up the color. You can zoom in and see that the inks are really distressed. Like, the whole idea being that like it's supposed to look like a beat up old comic book, where the inks kind of like didn't dry completely, or it's kind of washed out. And you know like so I was trying a lot of different stuff out with this. The this is the other thing that cracks me up. So I did this. My first instinct was like, so basically they built the story takes place in New Detroit, which is on the Saturn's moon, Titan, I believe, and
Okay.
basically, so they rebuild Detroit on this moon on Saturn, and they rebuild the Pontiac Silverdome so that they can they can do these wrestling events or whatever. So they, and when I showed this to the like wrestling podcast, they're like, "Oh man, WrestleMania 3." I'm like, yeah. You know, like they knew exactly where the Pontiac Silverdome.
Woo!
Wow, like, you know, and you know, which I thought was great because that's exactly what I wanted them to think. And you know,
Yeah,
like I took
kind of like an Easter egg for wrestling fans there.
exactly. So it's kind of like, yeah, I mean, I suppose it's a bit of an inside joke, but the other thing that I do a lot is I do this kind of like background design style where I take and um, digitize or vectorize photographs and like collage them together into pieces and do stuff. This is kind of a technique that I've developed over time. Um, partially to do like a combination of like almost like a what's the term I want to use, the oh cripes, they used it in the Lord of the Rings animated series. Uh, I can't believe I can't think of it. Anyway, it's supposed to create like a surreal, like imagery where it almost looks realistic, you know, because there's all these pieces, you know, that are like almost like photographic, but
Oh, are you talking about like what is that, rotoscope?
rotoscope. Thank you. Yes. So rotoscoping is kind of like, it's kind of like supposed to be sort of like that. Um, and then these are the actual first draft pages that are included in let's see if I can get through this. Yeah, okay. Hold on a second. So yeah, these are the actual pages that I've done for the story, and it starts out with him. He's about to fight his like first match, and they've got like, you know, armed guards. Now, granted, nobody knows that he's like superhuman beyond any of them, so he could probably kill everybody in the whole area, but he doesn't know that yet.
Mm-hmm.
He thinks he's gonna die. So the story basically starts out with him being like this geeky programmer who works for Googlesoft, which is the large corporation that runs everything. Which is like there's the whole part of the story is that, like, you know, 400 years in the future, like all the corporations consolidate into like two or three, and they basically fight with each other. And Googlesoft is basically like, you know, Google, Apple, and Microsoft all combine into one organization. And so he's a programmer for them, and he actually finds out that this, like, the CEO is evil, and that he's you know, that they're doing all kinds of stuff like killing people and all these kinds of things. um, and so they of course discover that he's discovered this because he's trying to blow the whistle on it, and they basically throw him into jail, and then they're like, you're going to fight in the IWF, which would be a death sentence for him because he's not physically capable of competing with anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And so while he's in jail, the leader of the resistance, there's like a resistance force, is in jail with him. He's about to be executed, and in order to break him out, the resistance give him this serum that's like made with nanotechnology, and it's supposed to augment him so that he's strong enough to break out of jail and then get back to the resistance force. Unfortunately, like, he gets beaten up and he gets attacked by inmates, and the serum ends up in this guy's tray, and he ends up eating it by accident. And then he goes to sleep, and when he wakes up, he's like 10 feet tall and he's covered with muscles. So he's going in the ring. Nobody realizes who he is or what he's going to do, and he ends up fighting this first match and winning, and then he goes on a winning streak. And then the story kind of turns to where um, basically, like, the resistance people start to petition him to start fighting for them, and he has to make a choice whether he's going to continue to fight these corporate overlords, or if he's going to just, you know, take money, be a successful wrestler, and just have all the fame and glory that's associated with it. Meanwhile, like, the corporate guys know that he knows stuff, so they're constantly trying to like kill him, like, or figure out ways to kill him. So they keep throwing like stronger wrestlers at him, um, in order to try to kill him, and they can't do it.
Is he gonna be a baby face or the heel? Well, how
Well,
will we find
yeah,
out?
he's really a baby face. I mean, the there's there are a few matches in there's a few matches in the first issue, but really the bigger ones are probably going to be even in the second issue, um, because he fights for the championship then. But um, and this, so he's really going to be like a doe-eyed baby face, and then all the people that he wrestles against are going to be the heels, like so this is the first one that he wrestles, which is Voltan, and he's a robot that's just his hands actually like fold back and then chainsaws come out, and so he can cut people up with chainsaw hands. So he's like, this whole sequence, like the next page is just him essentially like swearing at Tu Muerte and just like threatening him and telling him all the stuff he's going to do to him to kill him. It's like totally, it's totally ridiculous. And then I have a few images from the other Kickstarter. But before I do that, I mean, do you have any other questions about the book? Like, so it's going to be 32 pages. Again, it's all retro themed artwork. Uh, the Kickstarter's over in 4 days, so this is your chance to do that. Then it'll be available in print via my website, like on VantageComics.com. And
So how far along are you in making it?
I'm about halfway through.
Okay.
So I do like I've got my process down pretty good. So I do um, I do almost a page a day, like just kind of tearing through it once I get the script done, and so basically how this is going to go is the Kickstarter is going to get done on Wednesday. It's going to take 2 weeks before Kickstarter sends the money to me, like, because it takes that time, and then after that is when we'll be sending everything to the printer.
Okay.
So I've got a couple more weeks. I've got to get, I got another batch of pages I'm going to get done this weekend, and then I'll be off to the races. And it's funny because when I did Ethos, I've done graphic design for like 20 years. So I've worked with a lot of different printers on a lot of different print projects. But I hadn't really printed a comic book before. Like, I'd done, brochures, handouts, and all this other stuff, and I wasn't sure how this retro style would look like printed.
Mm-hmm.
And the Ethos book turned out so good. I'm just so pumped to see how this is going to look, because the Ethos book is really dark, like purposefully. This is a bit more like totally over the top and bright and ridiculous, and so I'm super stoked to see it get printed and what it's going to look like, and promoting it, because I was telling somebody on the wrestling podcast, like, most of my stuff is pretty dark. Like, it's a lot of like monster based stuff and dark themes and kind of twisted characters. And so I think that's part of the reason that I did this too, is I wanted to do something that was like just totally all over the top and in your face and just ridiculous, and like,
Yeah, you're usually more darker and serious and
yeah,
tone and stuff, and this one's
yeah.
more lighthearted. And
Oh yeah, it's
you know,
fun. Like, just writing these like really bloviating, like ridiculous characters, where they're just like insulting each other all the time. It's a lot of fun. So,
oh yeah, Aaron. Hey, Aaron. He says, "Oh my God, I love muscle men." He says,
yeah.
"Millions of unusual small creatures lurking everywhere."
Oh, there you go. I didn't even know what the acronym is, so I learned something on the podcast. That's awesome.
He said he had tons of them and made his own federation. Oh,
There
nice.
you go.
Did you
Yeah,
ever watch the anime there, Aaron? Ultimate Muscle.
no, I gotta get a hold of it actually, because a couple of people have brought it up to me, and I want to say I wasn't aware of it until recently. but I'm definitely going to check it out because I'm fascinated by it because I didn't know that. I mean, as a kid, you just get the things, you play with them, they're awesome, you know, and then you're like, I don't know, the whole idea that there was an anime based on it or that originated it. I think that's super cool, so I'll check it out.
Yeah, there was a couple different ones. There was like Kid Muscle, which I think they called like Ultimate Muscle or something. But then there was also like the previous one was called, I can't remember what it was called. It was like, a Japanese name, and it was like his dad and stuff. And I think at one point there's like a in the original one, because it was set in, it came out in like the 80s, and it had like a like either like a Hitler or a Nazi guy or
Oh,
something.
there you go.
Like all kinds of, it was so crazy and over the top
Yeah.
and ridiculous, and they were fighting and stuff.
Yeah, I think I think that's why I want to do this too. Is it like everything? And I like there's a ton of like modern books and stuff that I like. But everything's so dire, like and dark and kind of and I kind of miss some of the stuff that was in the 80s and the early 90s. It was just like, I mean, pulpy and silly and stupid and just over the top, and you just like read it and giggle and just be like, this is amazing, you know. So that's kind of part of the what I want to do with this too.
Well, that I feel like that's one thing that kind of bugs me about like Western and Eastern stuff right now, like manga and comics, is every time I see a comic, like Western comic, it feels very gritty, dark, or it has some sort of like political tones that it's kind
Yep.
of throwing at me, you know?
Yep.
Whereas like with manga, I look at manga and there's like a lot of more optimism and lightheartedness or wholesome stuff, like about like, family or
Hmm.
friendship, courage, and it's like I want to read that. I want to read something that makes me smile or makes me feel, aspire, something to aspire to or something like that. Not
Yeah.
something that makes me feel kind of down in the dumps. Like, yes, I like gritty things, but not all the time.
Yeah, yeah, no, I liken it to like you can't watch Breaking Bad forever. Like you gotta at some point you gotta stop and you gotta watch something else, and it's like yeah, I think that's why manga is so huge. Like honestly, I think that I it's funny because I think that Western comics, like from my perspective from talking to people, is that there was this point where I think all the people involved in it, even the people that read it, wanted it to be relevant and wanted to be respected. And so there's this underlying interest in like telling these like really deep, dark, emotional stories, which I mean, I don't mind. Like and I get that, and but it turned the whole ship so far that they forgot that, I mean, for years the biggest readership was teen readers, 20
Mhm.
somethings, and I mean that whole group is gone, and then their excuse has always been, well, it's because of video games, like everybody wants to play video games. I'm like, well, I know tons of young people that read comics. I mean,
Yeah,
but and you go to a bookstore and the books are filled with manga books. I mean, like a
right,
ton of them, and they're selling like a bajillion of them. Like the audience didn't disappear; they just
right.
went
They
in a
just moved
completely
somewhere
different.
else.
Yeah, and so you read through, and like to some of us, like you read some of that stuff, and in your mind, in some cases, it might seem naive or childish or not as uh, deep, as some other stuff, but that's what sells and that's what people want. Like, so you have to kind of, and there's a reason for that, and so I think that's something that a lot of people need to wrap their brain around because I'm the same way to some degree. Is like, every once in a while, I don't want to say every once in a while, but like there's a reason John Hughes movies, like I still watch them, like, or whatever. Like the whole, you sometimes you need a buttoned up ending at the end and feel and just kind of have a smile on your face when you walk out of the theater. And I think that
Hmm.
comics is kind of, I do feel like it's lost that. Like, that's why I
Yeah.
was never a fan of like the Snyder DC films because I mean, I watched them and enjoyed them, but it was like the whole time I'm sitting there going like they're trying to do the Marvel thing with DC, or make it like dark and twisted, and it's like it's just I can't. it's, it's like, all right, I get it. Everybody's a miserable asshole, fine. Like whatever. you know
Yeah, maybe it's a good thing Sim is snoozing today. Oh, he loves the Snyder stuff.
yeah, no, I mean, I don't
Like
think
I,
it's
I, I
bad
never
per se.
watched it because I looked at it and I was like, it's not for me. It's too it looks depressing, but also just it doesn't feel like the characters to me. It doesn't feel like my Superman or my characters that I
Yeah,
fell in love with.
yeah. And I mean, I suppose their response would be, well, you're just saying that because you grew up with the Christopher Reeve Superman or whatever, like, because that's what I would say. And so you can't, this, you need to, it needs to evolve, like and I kind of feel like yes and no. I don't know. I mean, I like that stuff. I do like but it's just, I think it would be better if they, what's the term I want to use? If they had cast it in a light that was more, um, like a more invigorating light, like like it was, and especially with that cast, if you had flavored that movie series a little bit differently, it could have been really positive, really engaging,
Hmm.
really uplifting, because they had really good casting. Like,
Yeah.
when you look at the actors and the people that were involved in, I'm like, this is a really good casting job. But just like I get done, I remember getting done with the Superman movie after he kills Zod, and you're
Hmm.
kind of like, ugh, like,
Yeah,
that
it's
was,
kind of like, oh.
yeah, geez, okay, so Superman's a murderer now. Like,
Yeah,
all right, whatever,
he kills people
like,
now. Okay.
well, he had to kill him because Zod was so bad, It's just like, I don't know. I was just kind of like,
Yeah, that
I don't think Christopher Reeve would have killed him. Of course, Christopher Reeve did. I guess he did end up killing those guys. I mean, it was just different because he threw them down a chute at the end of, like,
I don't know. For me, it's like no, Superman don't kill people.
yeah,
No.
break somebody's neck in the street or whatever. Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, everybody's different. Everybody's got a different view of it. Some people, I know people who absolutely love the Zack Snyder DC stuff. I mean, so I totally,
Oh, we
I
got
get,
Scully. Hail, hail, sir. He says, "Did somebody pull the fire alarm? Where is everybody?" So I'm wondering. I
yeah,
don't know, Pascali. Then again, it is a Saturday. You know, we're still not. I think some folks still aren't aware that I'm doing them every Saturday because usually I started out doing them like Mondays and Wednesdays, and maybe a couple months or so back I started doing Saturdays as well because not everybody's available in the weekdays, guests and stuff. So I started doing these Saturday shows, and so maybe people aren't aware that I'm doing them every Saturday and haven't gotten to the routine yet. Maybe that's why folks aren't coming in. It could be, or maybe they're all just busy today. Could be anything. Oh, we got Gray Wolf. Hey, well, hope you're doing
there you
well,
go.
sir. But yeah, I do want to see more optimism and aspirational heroes and stuff again in comics, like because like you said, like you have, we used to have like kids all the time coming in and reading comics and really getting into it and everything, and now it's all like old fogies like me.
Oh, there you go.
Like now the ages went up, and now all the young people have went to manga, and they're like, oh no, it's because of modern day, and everybody just wants to, like you said, go and video games and social media, YouTube. It's like, well, no, because they read manga. Obviously, there is a readership out there.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, I'm gonna launch sometime within the next month. Hopefully, I'm trying to work on that in parallel to some of this other stuff, but like a webtoon where it's gonna be
Mm,
like a, um, kind of like a post-apocalyptic story with this girl who finds this baby and tries to, um, take care of it, and finds out that it's like superhuman and all this other stuff, and very action oriented and stuff. But I mean, part of the reason I'm doing that is that's where the audience on webtoons is like massive, like,
yeah.
and I'm like, these people are reading this stuff, they're buying their books now. Granted, some of the stuff is, kind of like the manga romance element to it, but like
Mhm.
there's action stuff on there, there's horror stuff on there, there's a variety of different stories on there. I'm not a manga artist per se, but I've known artists that have gone on there and been successful and have good Patreon accounts and everything because of their work on that platform. So, you got to kind of, and when you read through it, I'm sure that there'd be people that would be like, well, these stories are very simplified, or like oversimplified, or they're too, this or that. And I get that. But, if you read 80s comic books with an unvarnished picture of it. I mean, I was a huge fan of like the Captain America. I read Captain America like religiously through the 80s and 90s, and although there were moments where there was a lot of like dark stuff that would happen, I mean the whole idea was this like kind of aspirational image of a person trying to fix things, make things better, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
um, but some of those stories are very naive, like, or might seem that way to people who want somebody that's going to be, well, we're
Yeah.
going to blow everything up. But anyway,
Yeah, I mean, not every comic has to be this like big meal for your brain or something. Sometimes you just want a snack.
yeah. Well, I'm a huge Frank Miller fan. I love Frank Miller, but I think that once Frank Miller did The Dark Knight, it was like everybody chased that. Like it feels like everybody
Yeah,
tries to like emulate that,
yeah,
which I get it. It's a fantastic concept. So
it does seem like everybody started trying to be like the Dark Knight or Watchmen
yeah,
or some of
yep.
these other things, like the deconstruction.
Yeah, once
Wow.
Alan Moore and Frank Miller kind of took over, like I mean, it's been a race to kind of catch up with them ever since. So, um, do you mind if I transition to like my other book?
Oh
Just
yeah, sure.
yeah. So I wanted to share this with you. So this is these are some samples of the book that I just got done with, which is Ethos, and I'm shipping out now. It's available via VantageComics.com. You can get a print copy there, as opposed to the Kickstarter that's still running for IWF. So this is, now we're going to transition to the dark story concept. So this is my Alan Moore story, I guess. So essentially, the story is about a man who's revivified. He wakes up in a laboratory and then escapes, and is running through Germany in the midst of World War II, the beginning of World War II. He's like a Frankenstein type, so he's obviously like he's got scars and stitches all over his body, and he's being chased by Nazi soldiers, super soldiers, and so it's the first episode of it's the first episode of the overall story, which is him kind of coming to terms with who he is and what he is, and then essentially he ends up meeting this group of monsters that comes together and kind of figures out a way to live without being monsters and doing positive things. And the whole story is really a riff on recovery from alcoholism and drug addiction. Like it's a kind of a metaphor for that. Um, and this is one that I had started writing 10 years ago, and then decided to finish 2 years ago when I did one, or a couple of years ago in leading up to the Kickstarter. And this is like a sequence from him uh, waking up as a monster, and like there's the scientist who's so this is the scientist's assistant, and this is like kind of an homage to the Hammer horror films of the
Mhm.
70s with um, Peter Cushing and
Yeah, Christopher Lee and stuff.
Christopher Lee as Frankenstein. Like this is very much kind of in relation to that. And again, this is with that retro comic design style, so you can kind of see the inks are buffed up and roughed, and then these are some of the add-ons that I had for the Kickstarter. Like, so we did beer coasters with a logo. We had the monster himself, like as a die cut sticker. There's a lot of like really cool stuff associated with that. Um, I got some more. I got some more pictures I can pull up. Just give me a minute.
Grable says, I just happened to see you were live. I just uploaded a new video to my channel. Oh, okay. Everybody go make sure and check that out later. Check out Grey Wolf's video. I put the link into the chat for folks for the IWF Kickstarter. Ace is with us. Hey, sir. All right. And then let's see. Yes, and that ethos can be found on, you said, on your website?
Yeah. Let me pull up here's the digital download. Oh wait, I don't have a way. I don't have a way to do anything in the chat, do I?
Oh, well, you can, if you want, you can send me the link to the private chat and I can post it in there.
That's for the digital. That's for the digital download of it. There's also a print version on the site too.
Let's see. I'll post the link here for your website in the chat. Vantage Comics website. There we go. Usually I got Soul here with me in the chat and he puts all the links up and he's real good about it.
There you go.
Yeah, I forgot. I was like, oh, I don't have my link man. My chat host is not here.
I've got another
copy. I'll put the link to the digital download here. Ethos digital download. Link to that.
There you go.
For everybody, there we go. Oh, what's this here?
Your name is R.L. Stein, confirmed.
Oh.
That's funny.
There we go.
Yep, nope, R.L. Black. So these are more frames. Let me see if I can do. Oops. So these are just running through pages of it. So it starts out. This is like very much an Alan Moore kind of the type of thing where there's like this report from the British Secret Service about this weird agency within the Nazis that are studying occult stuff. And
revolver.
Yeah, and so it starts out with this guy. This is the main character, and this is like after the story's taken place, and he's kind of giving what would be like a lead in AA, where he's like standing in front of a group of people, like talking about his story and stuff, and and kind of telling. And that's how it starts out, is him speaking in front of this crowd of monsters, like they're all vampires and werewolves and stuff. And this is the first page. I redid this like I don't know how many times, but this is the first page where, again, this is like the retro comic styling. Like there's stains on the pages, like the pages are wrinkled, the ink's buffed up, and he's essentially running away from the Nazi super soldiers who are trying to capture him. And he can like jump off a cliff, and he runs super fast. And
so he's got kind of like the Frankenstein's monster abilities of like enhanced physical attributes.
Yep. He's like super strong, can't be killed, like can run super fast, jump far, all that kind of stuff. And he's got blue blood. That's kind of funny too. But he gets shot. They shoot him. Like that'll slow him down. Shoot him. So they shoot him in the gut, and
can't really kill him, but hey, this might at least catch up.
He's like, damn it. And so they shoot him, and then he just kind of has this like moment where he's just like thinking about stuff. And then these are the super soldiers. They get directions from headquarters not to hurt him, And they're like, "Oh shit, we shot him already."
Oop.
Should we tell him we shot it already, sir? No, Schneider. They can find
No,
out when we get back to the base. like, like
didn't
it,
even know about that.
yeah, and that's the thing. I kind of did this too. Like I wanted it to be almost like stormtroopers, like from Star Wars, where there'd be, and also like I'm a huge Mike Mignola fan, so like I wanted it to be, um, a romp a bit, like a bit fun. And so
It doesn't take itself too seriously.
no, I mean, this story is a little bit dark because it's the first one, and he's kind of in the midst of being a monster. So, like, he doesn't really know what's going on, and a lot of like bad stuff happens to him and to everybody else. So, but the idea is by the end, he gets tied up with this new group of monsters, and he starts doing things to help other people, and they eventually end up fighting the Nazis in World War II. Um, and I'm gonna skip through this a little bit to the end, just because I want to show you a couple things that I think are kind of neat. So the
I always,
Nazi,
I always did like the idea of like the supernatural with like history,
oh yeah,
like the weird war tales from DC or the creature commandos and things
yeah,
like that. So I always like these kind of ideas.
yeah, absolutely. This is definitely kind of lends itself to that, and in this case, like Dracula shows up, and say rescues him. He's about to die, and he carries him um, through like flies. And I love that. This is one of my favorite scenes too. Is like, did you see that? How the hell are we going to explain this to headquarters? They've seen weirder stuff than this. like Dracula carrying a Frankenstein monster
Like,
like
yeah,
through
yeah,
the sky. Yeah, so he's just kind of like weirded out, and he doesn't know who he is, and so they carry him. He carries him through these mountains to this castle, and then he ends up. This is the last page, which is I brought you here and fixed your broken body. Together, I believe we can fix your broken soul. And I love this sequence with Dracula because this is one of my favorite drawings that I did was this kind of like style with Dracula where he's kind of trying to help somebody. So
that's interesting. A little bit different from typical Dracula.
oh yeah. Most of the time, Dracula's not a very nice guy. So um, yeah, so that's kind of the other book that I'm doing, or that I'm pitching, and basically I'm going to have a bunch more over the course of the year. So like anybody that's interested in it would go to vantagecomics.com and can sign up to like the newsletter, which is like once a week. And that just goes over the stuff that's being developed and released. We've got horror books that we're going to be putting out. We've got like kind of a mystery thriller books that we're going to be putting out. And then Ethos 2 and 3, I think, are going to be later in the year. So, yeah. So if you like retro comic type stuff, if you like horror stuff, monster stuff, and in this case, like wrestling stuff where there's like action adventure associated with it, and you're a fan of like, you know, 80s action adventure movies and stuff like that, then this is the perfect thing for you.
Yeah, yeah, it is interesting that with your ethos, a lot of people always put like Frankenstein's monster at odds with Dracula
Yep.
stuff, and you've got the opposite there. They're buddying up.
Yeah. They actually become close friends, and and there's a lot of like interplay there between the two of them because Frankenstein really puts Dracula on a pedestal, and then Dracula's not a perfect person. He's doing better than he was, but he's not perfect, and so there's this
Mhm.
constant kind of struggle between the two of them as to like what the right thing to do is in any given situation. So
Mm.
yeah, it's a little bit different than maybe the traditional Dracula narrative, Frankenstein narrative where they're choking each other on a cliff. So
I did see that you've got a drawn in tier for your IWF.
Yeah. So there are multiple sequences in there with a crowd, and so you know, like people would send me a picture, and then we'll literally draw your face into the comic book, like so that it's recognizable, and then you know, you get a printed copy of it, and you can share it with people, and then also it'll be a part of our promotions ongoing. So.
Now, will there be any scenes where the crowd might get accidentally killed in it?
At this stage, no, but this is just the first issue. It's 32 pages, so I think that that definitely can happen in the future in the next like issue, because everything kind of sort of devolves over time. Like as he starts to take on the system, you know, a little bit, you know, everything starts to get totally crazy. So yeah, no, there's definitely a chance that, you know, part of the crowd will get blown up or you know, whatever. You know, I haven't really dealt. I mean, that's probably one of the pieces of the whole thing that in hindsight, the you know, is you have to have a suspension of disbelief piece, because I have them in a ring, like a real wrestling ring, and they're fighting each other, but they've got like chainsaw hands and like laser beams and stuff. And really, it's not the safest environment for the crowd because honestly, they can get, you know, I do have a sequence where somebody gets splashed with blood, like, you know, like
Mhm.
from the stage, you know, and stuff like that. So,
Oh gosh, yeah. Oh, I'm surprised though. I didn't see Pedro or Ginge in the chat. This panel here with the announcers, gosh, that looks like that could be them in the comic. I need to
there you go.
I need to show them that panel. They also have a YouTube channel where they promote comics and stuff.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, that looks like it could be right. That could be them. I'm gonna have to show them that panel. Be like, look, somebody's drawn you in a comic.
Yeah.
uh, let's see. Let me scroll down. You got your options here. So we do have digital now. Is this do you ship international?
We do.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's part of the setup too. I mean, international shipping is quite a bit, but you know, it's a good product and it's a lot of fun. So
Okay.
we usually get, you know, probably 10 to 20% of our backers and people who purchase are from, you know, like Norway, Spain,
Hmm.
um, Canada. We get a lot of Canada people.
Yeah. Yeah. Usually my chat's pretty international. Seems like I get people from all over popping in and talking. They like Soul in the chat. You know, my chat host, he's from Germany. Sim, my co-host, he's Canadian.
Oh, very cool.
Dave Air, he's from the UK. You
Hmm.
know, we've got some US folks as well. You know, like Pale Rider and Aaron and stuff.
Hmm.
A little bit from everywhere. um, let me see here. Are you signing the books as well?
We don't have that as a tier, and I haven't traditionally done that, mostly because like I kind of feel at this stage that I'm not a big enough name that where like adding a signature is that important. I probably am gonna probably what's gonna happen with this one is I'll do like a stretch goal that'll include that, you know, and then just do signing, just sign them,
Okay.
because I've had a few people ask about that. So
Yeah, well, a lot of folks like to have that added little
oh yeah,
um,
absolutely.
touch.
Yeah, I think that is the guest aware of Chris's cross-dressing hobby obsession?
Gosh dang it, Pale Rider! This is what he does. He lurks. He hasn't said a word this whole stream, and then he brings this up. You be quiet. No, the, it's not an obsession. God, or it's bad. There
is
was no
this
bathhouse degeneracy.
is this part of the roast? Is this the
Yes.
roasting, the morning roast? Is like you sign on and then your audience just roast you? Is that it?
Basically, yes. That's all it is. Is they come in here and make fun of.
God, Yeah. Well, it's kind of like a wrestling crowd then, right?
Yes, yes.
There you go.
I wanted it. I I always thought, well, roast. It'll be about drinking coffee because I started to drink coffee for it to fit into the theme. And Sim's like, no, we're just going to roast each other, and the chat will roast us and everything. And then it spiraled out of control. I tell you. Yeah.
Apparently. Yeah.
Oh my! And then there's a thing where it's like if we get a backer, I've got to either tell a story or do something
There you
like
go.
that. And nowadays, Pale Rider sits around and he pops in and hides. You don't say nothing, and he pops up just to give me shit.
There you go.
Like this. Now, Dave now pops in. He says, "Yeah, Chris loves a good roast." Being in the middle of it, gosh dang it, Dave! Spit roast. Oh, it's really not a roast when it's true. It's not true. That is not true, Pale Rider or Dave.
Yeah, so we've got like there's a lot of good tiers on the Kickstarter. There's we've got one where we put all of our books that we've done this year into one thing so you can catch up on the other ones because we have ones like there's this one that's really neat that I did called Epic Adventure, and it's like a
Oh, wonderful.
fantasy
You
it's
there?
a fantasy story with a knight that that is on a quest and fights like you know
Oh,
spiders
okay.
and monsters and stuff like that. And I mean the camera's a little bit
So it's like
wonky.
a maybe like a sword and sorcery.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like definitely like a Dungeons and Dragons type thing. Like there's stuff like this, like
Oh,
like a
okay.
necromancer, and like there's a lot of stuff that's kind of like HP Lovecrafty in it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a zine and it's monthly. Like we're wrapping up the May version of it now for the second issue. Um, um, and so there's a lot of different stuff that you can check out, like even just in this Kickstarter, and then also, like I said, on VantageComics.com, there's a lot of different flavors of material. So it's not just like that's what I try to tell people. It's not just like we got this one wrestling Kickstarter. That's one aspect of like a lot of the different stuff that we're trying to do. Super
Yeah.
Cult's another book that's a lot of fun that we're going to be expanding into a full comic issue. That's the first one that I did actually, and it was I didn't yeah I did an album cover for this band called Morganthus. It's a heavy metal band. They're kind of like a Black Sabbathy like sounding group, and
Hmm.
they wanted an album cover with like a crowd and then like a guy on a stage that's kind of like it would be a preacher or political figure or something, and he's like tearing his face off and it's like a skull underneath. So I did the album cover for him, and we really liked it. Like it turned out really cool. We were really interested in it. And again, I looked at it and I said, God, I'd love to do a story based on this. Like while I was drawing it, I just pictured this whole story. And so we actually did the comic as an insert into their CD and their album. And it's a 20 pager, and it's basically about this guy who has like this supernatural background. You don't really know what it is. And he ends up, they have this big live television event with the cult that he's in, and they basically play heavy metal music, and it turns everybody into zombies, and it starts the apocalypse. And it's like it's really cool and like pulpy and over the top. And so we want to do like a full series of it because everybody really loves it. Like everybody that we've shared it with is really into it. So
It
we're gonna try
sounds
to do that
fun.
too. Yeah, no, it's definitely a fun romp to do, to kind of
Yeah.
roast.
So it's good that you have like your all your current library here that people can
Yep,
get.
yep, yeah, all
Uh,
kinds of stuff.
oh, Lorraine Lamour says marshmallows.
There
Okay,
you go. If you're gonna have a roast, you need marshmallows, right?
that's true. Yeah, gotta have some marshmallows. Tell your guests what you're. Oh, he don't need to know that. Tell your guests what you're going down to New Orleans to do. It's true. That's only because we've reached a subscriber goal. I didn't think we were going to reach it. And now I'm stuck having to go do it.
I love this. I love this comment. Where does it go? I figure that this is the infancy stages of a new comic books industry, which will eventually dominate, and then this stuff will be gold and collectible stuff. Else, the Earth ends, and who cares? Like, well, there is that. We could get hit by an asteroid. There could be the apocalypse that everybody's pining for. Like, so
Uh, yes. Yeah. I think there is the potential. You
why?
know.
Yeah, Lorraine's like, why is there always an apocalypse? I don't think we're going to have one. You know what? I don't think we are either, and I don't understand why everybody's pining for one. It is a convenient plot vehicle, that's for sure. Like putting everybody in a really uncomfortable, shitty situation, and then having them deal with it.
Yeah. I don't think the world is heading for any kind of apocalypse. I think that we've always had doomsayers and throughout time, but I don't think that we're ever
It's been
going to.
around forever. Like, even if you look at literature, like there've been plenty of stages where everybody thinks that like the world's going to end and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
uh, so I will say that like it does feel like a lot of the media, like a lot of the creative media, focuses on that,
Hmm.
and it's I don't know. That's a good question. That's a whole like philosophical question, I think. Like why everybody feels like everything's going down the tubes, like when it clearly, from my perspective, like I mean, I'm not saying that there aren't problems. There's a lot of problems, but it's like we've had problems for 10,000 years plus. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, throughout all of human history, there's been little bumps and snags.
absolutely, absolutely. So
Yeah. I do
yeah,
think that Pascali, what he said there, I do think he does have a point there, that, with this, crowdfunding and all this stuff that the indies, quote unquote, could potentially lead to the rise of a new resurgence for Western comics,
yep.
giving people what they want, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because um I think it's for me it's like a combination of things. Like on the one hand you have Marvel and DC, and Marvel made the decision years ago to kind of pivot to movies and like really focus on that as an income stream.
Yeah.
And they've all kind of, I don't want to say let their comic book properties go, but they're not. It doesn't feel like they're tending to them as well. And then also, like for me as a reader, like the whole reboot they keep every time there's a new, they do a whole reboot, like we're restarting the galaxies and all this other shit. And like I got to the point where I'm just like I'm kind of burnt out on it. But I feel like with that, there's like some. I don't want to say. I don't. It's not that I feel like there's boredom, but it's like everybody's seen it so much that now I think that they're pivoting and looking at other things and interested in other things. And what's happening is you have this independent comics um, industry that's like kind of bubbling up more so than it has in a long time, I think, in a more organized way. And they're filling that gap with material that people want, like with like the kind of the concepts people want to see, like more um, maybe more complex storytelling, maybe different kinds of characters, like I mean, or which I think is great. I mean, like you see the growth in conventions, and kind of this culture around it, comics seems to be developing. I think it's a good thing.
Let's see. What's everybody saying here? We got Vicious Inks. We got Vic King popping in. He says, "Hail Sugar, hail chat. Hit the like button, everybody. Yeah, please do. Or if you're new, hit the subscribe and be sure to hit that little bell to, for when I go live, it'll notify you. So that way, you'll know when I go live on Saturdays and stuff for these streams or Mondays and Wednesdays. All around Chris's house for the apocalypse. You just want to come over here, Dave, because I got guns. That's all it is. Let's see. Lorraine says there are places in the U.S. and around the world that are desperate and depressing now, so that's apocalyptic. Well, that's always sad to hear. Yeah, there is places, but that's gosh, that's getting into the rabbit hole, and that's a even bigger talk about like things like culture and about how the media, fear mongering in the media and all these different things. You can get into a big conversation surrounding all that.
Absolutely. That's way more than one podcast, that's for sure.
Yeah. Oh, Felix, hail and bow to the chat and to the panel. Yes, yes. Bow. Lord Sandwich, hail, meaty knights. Hail, Lord Sandwich. Let's see. Let me scroll down here and see what else is on the campaign. Got a nice picture print here.
Yeah, I've been working on more promotional like images for it, like just to give a flavor of like some of the other parts of the book where he starts wrestling and like this guy's got chainsaw hands and like cuts his shoulder, and then the nanobots like heal him up and all this kind of stuff. It's pretty crazy. That's one of the first images I did too when I was doing the Lucha Libre character. Used a lot of Lucha Libre reference to come up with that.
And we got some art of yours here, just showing off your work.
Yep. Yeah, I do. Yeah, you can check out my Instagram for sure. That's where like um, rlblack.ink on Instagram is where I really do a lot of my post a lot of my imagery, like so you can get a flavor of like the type of different artwork that I do.
Okay. Yeah.
A lot of vampires. Like if you're into vampires, you definitely be into my stuff. Like like I do Cthulhu, alien monster stuff, like all kinds of things.
Yeah, so I mean, for $5 you can get a digital. That's pretty good.
Yep.
And then print for only $10. That's not a bad price. Can't complain with that.
Yep.
Yeah, but you got a lot of options here to get the whole library.
Yeah, and the one thing I haven't added to this that I really should, that I need to on the main storyline, is there's a lot of add-ons that you can't see. Like I've got like poster prints and different stuff, and I really should have added that to the Kickstarter, but I never got around to it. So there's tons of stuff that you could get with this that's really cool and interesting. Bookmarks, coasters, postcards, and prints like of like them fighting and all kinds of stuff.
Let's see. There's Felix is a good link man. There he goes. He's starting to put those links in there. Good job, Felix. Glad to have you. So we didn't have there was no soul in our stream today. No soul. so we didn't have no links going on. Pescoy says decades ago, disco started dominating the music industry, and it continued until people were hating disco. Then eventually it died down, and good music came back in style. Manga is the new disco. That could be, yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, it's the new fad or whatever. There's always like a cycle of, rebirth and all that throughout all things, and that could be what's happening with comics. Eventually people get bored with manga or something, perhaps, and maybe we'll see a resurgence in Western comics. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, I remember when I started collecting vinyl at the time, and like nobody bought vinyl, and everybody's like, "Why are you buying records?" And then it was like 10 or 15. Now everybody I know has a goddamn record player, and we're buying copies of different stuff, and I mean, which is a good thing. I'm glad that they're doing it, but it's like I feel like this is kind of tangential to that. I mean, go on Netflix and look at the stuff that's on there. Like 90% of the shows are from comic books. Like they use comic books as a breeding ground for ideas for everything that they're doing. I mean, all the movies, the biggest movies in the past 5 years, every single one of them is pretty much comic books. Like to pretend that comic books is like a dying industry or not relevant, or that there's, I just don't, because I'll hear it every once in a while from people like, comic books is dead or comic books is blah, 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 blah. It's just ridiculous. Like, I think that it's changing. I think that the medium continues to evolve, and that people have different perspectives on it. But I think it's going to be something that people are going to read forever.
Let's see. Grable says, "You'd like my stuff. My main character, Dr. Renfield, is the son of R.M. Renfield in Dracula." Ooh, okay.
There you go.
That's interesting. Yeah, tell us more about it, Grey Wolf. Hey, have you seen that movie, RL? That Renfield
I
movie?
was gonna go see it, but like like at the same time, my kids wanted to go see the Mario movie, so I went to go see that. I went to go see the new Guardians of the Galaxy movie, and then There's one other one in there, and so I didn't make it to that. I definitely want to see the Renfield movie, just because Nicolas Cage's Dracula. That's all they needed to say
No,
for me. I'd
that's,
be like, I
that's
definitely would
the
take a
only
flyer
reason
on
I
that.
want. That's
So
that's the only reason I want to watch it is because it's got Nicolas Cage.
yeah, I mean, I think the reviews on it are a little mixed, but the concept, I like the concept. So and there's very few movies that are Dracula based that I can't watch and enjoy. Like, I mean, it has to be pretty damn bad for me to be like,
Oh, have you seen there was another. Oh, there's another one, Dracula, right? Like it's where he's on the ship.
oh yeah, no, I'm definitely seeing that. That looks super interesting. Oh cripes, what's the ship's name?
I can't remember.
I can't believe I can't think of it. Yeah, no, they I saw the trailer for that. It has the one guy from Game of Thrones that played Stanley Baratheon's assistant or whatever. He's a British guy, I think, and he's a great actor. The cast looks really good. But yeah, they cover the ship that comes into England that has Dracula on it, and when it shows up in the book, it's everybody's dead, and then of course Dracula like sneaks off the ship in order to get into England, and the movie's basically about the the ship land, the travels and everybody dying at Dracula's hand. Uh,
Dave says the BBC Dracula series from a few years ago was really good. He
that
said,
was good. Yep.
I never seen it. What's Piscali saying? If the woke to back, I guess he means go back to destroying their own culture, then ours will flourish once again. Okay. Uh, let's see. Yeah, I didn't see this BBC Dracula series. I had a friend who watched it and he said it was okay. He liked parts of it.
Yeah.
It had some cool ideas, but I never watched it. Uh, I did like what was that called? Dracula Untold or Dracula Rise? What was that called? The
Yeah,
one.
that was a good one. Where they had oh gosh, what's the actor's name? I can't remember, but he's hyper intense. Like basically, they have Dracula as like the warrior when he first becomes a vampire,
Yeah,
and he goes and meets with the guy who's, and I can never remember the actor's name, but he's amazing. He's the Tywin Lannister in Game of Thrones, and he's also my memory of him was playing in the Golden Child, where he's the demon in the Golden Child. But anyway, he plays the vampire that turns Dracula into
yeah,
Dracula, and they have this really great sequence where he's basically telling him, okay, I'll turn you into a vampire, but you have to be prepared for what's going to happen. And at the time, they tried to again make it like this noble thing, like Dracula wants to turn into a vampire in order to like rescue his people, because if he's a vampire, then he can kill all of his enemies and all this kind of stuff. And it's pretty neat.
yeah. And I when I watched it, I didn't realize that it was supposed to be going to be part of like a whole like universe, like Universal Monsters
Yeah.
thing, and then that of course fell through, so it never got a sequel. I was like, oh man, when I learned of it, because I was like, wow, this was pretty fun, and it looked like it was setting up a sequel,
Yeah, it
and then
was.
nothing ever happened.
Yeah, it's funny. It was well produced. I just don't think that it caught on the way that they wanted it to. Like where there was enough of a, it wasn't like like Francis Ford Coppola's like Bram Stoker's Dracula, where you have like Winona Ryder and Keanu Reeves and Anthony
Yeah,
Hopkins. You have big names, and then everybody goes and sees it, and it gets a lot of awards and stuff. And so there's like a cult following of it. That's more of like you have to. I think you have to be a. I feel like you would have to be a hardcore like horror fan and like those types of movies to really love that movie because it's not really it's not really built for like a mainstream audience. I don't know. I mean, that was just my read on it was because I missed it for a long time and then I just watched it like in the past year.
Let's see. Oh, Coleman. Hey, Coleman. Lorraine says the asleep culture. Hmm. What do you mean by that, Lorraine? Oh, she says I was in that movie. What? You were in the Dracula movie? What do you mean, Lorraine? You pulling my leg? That's pretty cool though. If you was, I've never been in a movie. Pascal says, got any coupons for my Vantage card?
Yeah, I don't. I'm not running a special yet, so or at least not at this time. Um, the best way to get coupons would be to sign up for the newsletter because I do put them in there.
Oh, okay. So there you go. Sign up for the newsletter if you want to get in on that. Yeah, I'm gonna have to. Man, I'm really gonna have to share that panel. That looks like it could be right then.
That's funny.
That is funny. Yeah, it could be. They've already got a drawn in tier for free. There we go.
There you go.
Let's see. Opposite of woke. Oh, that's what the culture thing. Okay. And then she says, "I was an extra." Oh, that is cool. That's cool. How did you get to be an extra? That sounds like it would be a fun experience to be an extra in a movie. I wonder how you get to do something like that. Then
Well, there's a
again,
ton
like,
of like soldiers and monsters and stuff like, or soldiers and stuff like running around. Or and there's a few crowds in it, so I'm assuming that
oh yeah, maybe
Lorraine would
she
have
was
been
like,
in the crowd somehow.
yeah, maybe she was like one of the villager people. Yeah, that he was protecting. That's cool. I I, I live in a little town here in West Virginia, so there's not many options, opportunities for me to go be an extra in a movie, unless
There
they
you go.
do like another Wrong Turn movie or something.
Yeah, you'd have to. You probably have to go up to Pittsburgh because every once in a while they film stuff up there and they'll
Mm.
look for extras. Um,
I go there for a convention. That's about it for Pittsburgh.
yeah, yeah. I'll have to keep an eye out for you because I think I'm going to try to be. I'm going to try to be at the next Pittsburgh convention. So
Oh, okay. Yeah, I do. I go to that Steel City Con.
yeah, that's a good one. That's a lot of fun. Yeah, we just went through West Virginia. We were going down to Tennessee, and I got my parents or my kids, my family to stop at that town that has the like green alien monster.
Oh, Mothman.
No, it
Oh,
wasn't
vampire.
Mothman. It's the one that's like Mothman. It's like the poor man's Mothman.
Oh,
Uh, and they were all like, "Oh, do we have to?" And like, this was one of those things where
dude, God, I
my
really.
geekdom like took over. I'll dig it up. Just give me a second.
But let's see. Chris was in the Dracula movies too. He played Dracula's twin. Gosh dang it, Dave!
There you
I
go.
kept him company during the day. Oh Lord, he was no Dracula. Come on now, he had a wife. I was not in that movie, and I wouldn't have been his twink anyway, Dave. Casting agencies hire extras. Oh, okay. So, oh, all right. So you were hired out by a casting agency.
Yeah, there
Do
we
they
go.
pay good money to be an extra, Lorraine?
I don't think
No,
they
they're
do. I
nothing.
think they basically say
They're
that
just
you can be in it, and
they're just like here, have a ham sandwich.
here's the link to. It was the Flatwoods Monster in West Virginia, which is like the Mothman, except
Oh wow, yeah, that is basically the poor man's.
it's a poor
Oh,
man's Mothman. But and now, anytime anybody tells me they're from West Virginia, I ask them, "Do you know anything about the Flatwoods Monster?" Because nobody's like, "What's that?" Like, you know. Uh,
Flatwoods in Braxton County. Okay.
So do you have many folks on the on the cast that that they do art or they're interested in art, or do you guys just is it, you just generally talk about culture and comics and stuff like that?
What do you mean?
Well, I'm curious because like sometimes I go on these and like a lot of people want to talk about process and stuff like that, and then others are just interested in kind of like the general concept of the projects.
It depends. Like Sim, he can get into the nitty gritty of all that because he's an
Oh, okay.
artist and everything.
Oh,
But like
okay.
personally, I'm just a reader
Oh, there you go.
and stuff. So
Okay, that's
I
what I
don't know
figured.
all that
I
stuff.
was just curious.
Yeah, Sim, he can talk about the processes and the programs and all that other. I don't know none of that stuff. I've learned a little bit about it just from hearing everybody talking,
Yep.
but that's about it.
Yep.
Let's see. Maybe they'll do a bootlegger movie in West Virginia set in the 1930s. Yeah, maybe we'll get a movie about Shine. You never know.
There you go. I've heard worse ideas.
Yeah, about that Mountain Dew. Let's see. What part of Tennessee? We live in Manchester between Nashville and Chattanooga.
Oh gosh, my wife organized the trip. I just drive. Like it was. It wasn't Nashville. It was. The big tourist trap. Gatlinburg. It was. We went down to Gatlinburg and went to like the whatever it is, the Ripley's Believe It or Not museum where everything's upside down and all that kind of stuff.
Gatlinburg in mid-July.
Yeah, it was nice. It was a nice time. I like Tennessee.
Yeah, I think was it Nashville? Pretty sure it was Nashville. My brother would always have to go down there at one point. He would have to go down for like the the big company they worked for. He worked for. They'd have to go down. All the like big store like the store managers would have to go down for this big company meeting, and I think it was in Nashville. And they would have like bands, even I think at one
Oh
point
yeah,
playing and stuff, and they'd have
yeah,
like a big company thing.
yeah. There's a lot of good music down there.
Let's see. And then afterwards, sometimes they'd go out and do stuff. But he would tell us about it. Seemed like it was a real nice place.
Hmm.
Now Chris is going to be all up in Lorraine's DMs asking if she'd like to make a. Oh come on! No, no, I don't know Lorraine. Why would I talk with her like that, Pale Rider? Don't be saying that. Non-union paid minimum wage, and you get meals. Union actors get much better pay and protections. I've heard that, but don't you have to pay for to be in the union, and it costs quite a bit of money to become a union member or something? That's what I could have swore I heard somebody tell me that to be in the union, you had to get a union card, and that cost so many $100 and stuff like that. But hey, at least you get paid. You get paid some minimum wage, and you get meals. That can't complain that. And you get it's a. I'm sure it was a interesting experience. Just a reader. Just a reader. Christopher Sugarson. You do not understand, but I am. I am just a reader. Grable says, "Oh, okay. Gatlinburg is cool. They have Alcatraz East there. John Dillinger's actual 1933 Essex Terraplane 8, Ted Bundy's Volkswagen Bug, OJ's white SUV, and the 1967 Bonnie and Clyde movie car are there. Yeah, actually, I've been there. Yeah, I've been to Alcatraz East. Yeah.
I gotta wonder what their tourism like bureau and budget is because they've gone all out there for sure to try to
Mhm.
get like the tourist stuff going.
Yeah, because we went down. We was going to go to Dollywood for mom. I think. Yeah, I think that's what it was. We were going to go to
Yeah,
Dollywood because
Dollywood is
mom
a big
loves
draw.
loves Dolly Parton, and we it was closed, so we missed out on it. But then we went down to like there and got to see like Alcatraz East and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So it was pretty interesting.
So
Well, Chris, you did have BB For nudes? No, I didn't. That is a lie. I did not hound her for nudes. Ah,
But this chat's pretty ruthless.
yes, they are. Mostly Power Rider and his degeneracy. Yes, but if you can be seen in a few films or shows, you can speed up the process of joining. Oh, okay. So basically, like the more known you get, the better, the easier it'll be to join the union. Okay, I gotcha. That's interesting.
Yeah, I
Have you
think
been have you been an extra in a lot of films, Lorraine? That's pretty cool.
only
Oh,
ruthless to Chris. That's funny.
Pascal says there. I'm order number 274 on Vantage.
Awesome. Very very nice of you. Thank you.
Oh, awesome! Yes. So we got a backer. That counts. So we'll throw him up, throw it up in the corner for Pale Rider. There you go. Let's see. We got a Sugar Rush. Oh, Dave says he loves Dolly Parton too. I think me and your mom would get on.
Who doesn't love Dolly Parton? Dolly Parton's amazing.
Don't try and mess. No, I'm not introducing you to my mom, Dave. Calm down. Uh,
Uh,
let's see. Only ruthless to Chris because we love him. No, no, don't suck up now, Dave. Just because you heard about you and my me and my mom have something in common. Oh, Lorraine said she's been in a few. Oh, awesome. That's pretty cool, though. Maybe being an extra might give you an opportunity to meet these big time celebrities and stuff. Yeah, you never. That's pretty cool. The actual Bonnie and Clyde death cars at Whiskey Pete's Prim Valley Casino in Nevada, a
mm,
1934 Ford four-door sedan. Hmm.
I want to be like if I could be an extra on a movie, I would be an extra on the new Dune movie. I wish I could have been in that.
Oh yeah,
I'm dying to go see that.
I haven't got to watch that first one.
Oh, you haven't? Yeah, well, I'm huge into science fiction, so so I you know, and I really Dennis, what is his name, Deluve. I can never pronounce his last name. The director, I really like his stuff too. So
Okay. Sugar Rush. You know what to. I know. I know.
so Chris,
So
if you could be an extra in a movie, what movie would you be an extra in?
like any movie, like past,
Any movie,
present.
past, present, future.
Oh man, either a Mel Brooks movie or a Leslie Nielsen one.
Oh, that says a lot. that's like, that's great. That's a great response. Any Mel Brooks movie or a Leslie Nielsen movie.
That
That's
would be so
great.
much fun.
That's awesome. Would be in the crowd at one of the dinners at Naked Gun or whatever when
Yeah,
it's like when he attacks the queen or whatever. Or,
yeah.
you know, yeah,
I would
that
just
would
be
be good.
just dying. I'd have to like hide my face because I'd be laughing.
That's good. I would be an extra in History of the World Part One. Like you could be in
Wow,
the
be
crowd, like
great.
in the one of the Romans in the crowd or whatever. I'd do
Yeah.
that. That would be a good place to be an extra.
Uh, uh, he's a eunuch. He's a eunuch. He's dead.
Yeah, yeah. We're gonna pipe the shit out of this from your house. That whole yeah, that's a good one. It's good to be the king.
Or a Monty Python movie. That'd be fun.
Yeah, that would be
Let's
a good one.
see.
Yeah, I
Um,
tried to get my kids to watch it, and they were just like, "This is so stupid." And I'm like, "You guys, like, this is like my entire childhood is Monty Python and Quest for Holy Grail. Like, we used to quote that like nonstop. Man, that
Mhm.
movie was so amazing."
Let's see. Dave says, I would never disrespect Mama Sugarson. What is with this Sugarson? My last name is Evans. I wanted to do extra work, but I have a very unique look. Okay. If Chris could be an extra in a movie, Brokeback Mountain for sure. Oh Lord, I have never seen that movie. I'll have you know, and I have no interest in it. Pascal says he would be an extra in The Wizard of Oz. Oh,
That would be a
okay.
fun one to be an extra
Hmm.
in. Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's see. The Dolly Parton Barbie got discontinued. Too many little boys got their eyes poked out.
Oh my MG.
Oh, Lordy. Well, I mean, that her assets got her known. That's for sure. Helped her become big. Let me think. What was it? Oh, yeah. So I got a backer. So I've got to tell you the whole backstory of why we're called Red Dress Press and why I have to go to New Orleans. Since you're a new guest,
Hmm.
and it's either that or I sing a song. So I'm telling you the story. And since Soul isn't here, he won't complain. He can't complain. So I now have to go to New Orleans because I made a promise to that if we ever got over 1,000 subscribers on the channel, I would go to New Orleans and do the red dress run, where you dress up in a red dress and everything, and you got to do this like run for charity.
Oh, that's
So
fun.
yeah, so that's happening in August. So I've got to now figure out how I'm going to get to New Orleans in August. Um,
It's gonna be hot.
ugh, ugh.
Yeah,
But
that's gonna be swampy down there.
yeah, I'm going to
New
be.
Orleans. Yep.
Ew, I'm going to be miserable. I figure, but at least I'll be wearing a dress, so I'll be able
Well,
to
yeah, you'll be
air
aired
out a
out. That's for
little.
sure. I'd get a big sundress, with a lot of room, and just air everything out.
But it all started because I have a tendency of telling stories or things about myself that I probably shouldn't, that everybody then runs with.
Hmm.
So I worked when I was in my early 20s. I worked at Walmart, on the night shift
Hmm.
and stocking shelves and stuff. And of course we were open 24/7. And for one of the Halloweens, the I dressed up as a woman because I worked with a lot of women there on nights, and all of them wanted me to do it. And the woman I was seeing at the time was like, "Yeah, yeah, do it, do it." I was like, "All right, fine." So they had, the night manager. She was in on it and everything. So they went out and got me this red dress. I had, I think, female shoes on, the feminine shoes. I had a red dress. I had a bra. We stuffed it with, the bath tissue and stuff from the bathrooms, and they did my hair up, all kinds of stuff. Done me all up, and that bra was awful. By the end of the night, I had like red welts across my chest from it. it was that was miserable. But I had to work like that all night,
Hmm.
and of course we were open 24/7. But I remember we pulled the skids out and we were breaking them down because I worked grocery. And while I was bent over putting something down, and a guy came out and seen me bent over and was checking out my ass until I got up, and I was like, "Oh, there's somebody behind me." I looked back like that, and I still had my beard and everything, and he was just like, and he went up the aisle real quick, and and Caroline, she was just laughing, and I was like,
Oh,
"What?" And
sure.
then she's like, "That guy was checking out your ass."
That's funny.
I was like, "Oh God!" And then we got done breaking the truck down, and I took the skid. I took my skid of water and up in the aisle, and was working it the aisle, and these two Mexican fellas, because they're in Moorfield, you got the chicken plant, and they're bad for hiring illegals to work there.
Hmm.
So these two like Mexican fellas, they come up the aisle and see me, and they immediately get this big grins, toothy grins, and they're just staring at me, and they're talking excited to each other, and they're laughing a little bit, and they just look at me. I was like, okay, and they slowly go past and go down the aisle, and I was like, all right, and I keep working. Next thing, here they come again, back down the aisle. And then they do that like 3 or 4 times up down the aisle. just laughing and looking at me, and I was like, okay, that's weird. And I get done there. I move over to the cereal aisle to start on it, and here they come again, and a couple more times. I was like, what in the world? I told Carolyn, I was like, gosh dang, I might need to walk when I leave. I might need an escort to my car. These guys keep following me. And that's how it was throughout the night. And ever since I told that story now, I've never heard the end of it from the chat. And I've told a few other different stories, and then now they just make fun of me all the time over stuff like that. And
Ruthless.
then Pale Rider told me about the Red Dress Run in New Orleans, and they made me promise that if I ever reached over 1,000, I'd do that run. And then that Umbrella guy, he came onto the show, and promoted the show to his channel. And then next thing you know, we went from like 400, 500 subscribers up to like 1,500.
Yeah.
Because his people came in and subscribed just to get us over that mark for charity, and now I got to go do it.
There you go.
I was like, gosh dang it, I never thought I'd end up having to do it.
Hey Chris, I gotta wrap up actually. I gotta get
Oh, okay.
going. It's
Okay.
almost 1 o'clock here.
Alrighty. Well, I told you the story, so we can wrap her up. And
There you go.
so everybody, do go check out IWF on the Kickstarter, or you can go onto his website and back it. In a way, it would be probably better if you backed on the website, wouldn't it? Because then the Kickstarter don't get their cut, right?
Well, yeah. Once the Kickstarter is successful, we'll end up having like a pre-order page on the website. I think the best thing to do would be to actually sign up for the email newsletter, just because
Okay.
you'll get sent an update on this. There's also links on the website to the Kickstarter, so you can go there and pledge the Kickstarter too. But if you sign up for the newsletter, then you get all of the future updates on, like the horror comics, the adventure comics, all the other stuff that we're doing art-wise. And I think so that's why I kind of pitched the vantagecomics.com site, because it's a good place to get signed up. And you can also check out, like, there's more artwork on my website, which is just rlblack.inc, and INK. Like I publish blog posts there. There's all kinds of art content and prints and all kinds of stuff there too. So I thank you, Chris, for having me on. I really do appreciate it, and I appreciate all the laughs and the fun comments in the chat, and taking the time to chat with me about this whole thing. It's very much appreciated.
Oh, no problem, no problem. Thanks for joining us, and thanks everybody in the chat for hopping in and listening to us ramble on. And everybody who pops in and watches the replay, always appreciated. And like I said, if you're new, be sure to subscribe and leave us a like, or a comment, anything that helps out the channel. And I'll see you all again on Monday. Who am I having on real quick here? I think I'm having on Ace. Right? Am I right there? Yes. Ace will be joining us to talk about his work. I am looking forward to next Saturday, because next Saturday we'll be having we'll be having on Carl Richardson. Oh, I'm looking forward to that, because his book looks really cool, Bad Luck. And I've been trying to get him on for a while now. But anyway, I'll see y'all then. Later, everybody.
All right, take care.